Good evening, everybody.
Good evening,
Good
Ken.
to see everyone. We have Kelly with us this week, and Michael and Dr. Ricks as always. I want to welcome everyone to episode 571, Who is the Beast of the End of This Age, Part 2. And stay tuned to the end because we're going to have a discussion about the new Pope. I don't know much about him, but we're going to talk about him anyway.
Or speculate at least.
If you would start us out, Dr. Ricks, that would be wonderful.
Since we're going to be talking about the beast, the big government official, we sort of kind of get a few government jokes in here, especially my pièce de résistance, the last one. Okay, a judge asked a dentist in this government lawsuit, he said, when you get on stand, will you drill the whole tooth and nothing but the tooth? This one's even worse. This was on a government case regarding a food company, and they were making some splicing. He said, so what do you get when you cross pig and centipede? You get bacon and legs. Now, this is the government joke. You got to listen carefully. These are the founding fathers when they were building the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. This is 1776. After a long, hot day in Philadelphia, founding father one says, it's really rather hot in here. It's been a long day. Shall we open the window? No, says the founding father second one. I'll just take off my jacket and roll up my sleeves. The next founding father says, we're allowed to take off our jackets, roll up our sleeves while at work. Yes, another founding father. I know that doesn't sound very smooth. How about everyone just have the right to bear arms? The right to bear arms.
Oh my.
I love that when I first read it. I said, well, that's one way to look at it. That's how you got it, right? To bear arms. Okay. So we're gonna.
Hey, that's not enough for some little guys like me. I'm just saying.
Daniel describes the dictator. This is, of course, before he's destroyed by returning Jesus Christ. One of the things Daniel emphasizes, this man will be very vain. He will exalt himself. Ken, would you read Daniel 11?
Your audio's like going in and out.
Indeed.
My audio.
Yeah. All right. Check your microphone and make sure. Check your microphone setting up above because you were fine earlier, and check and see if the microphone is showing the Yeti. No, not down there. On the screen.
On the screen.
Look on the screen and click on your mic and see what it's using. Down on the bottom.
I'm looking. Okay.
Should be using the Yeti.
I'm going to make the noise cancellation higher. Is that better?
I wouldn't do that. I would not increase that. I would just leave that alone.
It says Yeti speaker.
It does say, no, I mean Yeti microphone. Check your microphone setting. Not the speaker. Below that, it says microphone.
Trying to get it to go down to microphone. Microphone's toward the top. You have to go down.
Okay, you
Okay,
look at that. I'm gonna read the verse, and you look
Yeah.
at that.
I look at this.
This show is really a one-stop shop. I mean, we do Bible prophecy, we do current events, and we do tech support,
We do
guys. You can't
live
just
tech
get
support,
you just
right on.
can't get the full spectrum anywhere. This is a special crew.
Daniel 11:36. Let's see, and this is a Bible in basic English. And the king will do his pleasure. He will put himself on high, lifting himself over every god, and saying things to be wondered at against the God of gods.
Well, I don't know what to tell you. How's it sound now?
It's a
Little
little
better.
low.
Still low.
Yeah, it's fine. Just keep going.
Okay.
You know what? Tap the Yeti. Tap the mic. You're not on it. You got to click your microphone. You see up on the top of your screen, the little thing says mic.
In the bottom of the screen, it says mic.
Really? It's on the top on mine. Well, then click on the microphone, the little drop-down box.
I see it. And it's not letting me do anything but speaker. Doesn't say microphone. Well, okay. Hold on. Microphone. Okay. That Yeti?
Oh yeah.
We got the Yeti microphone now, right?
And if you put it on, then yeah.
Well, it says Yeti.
Okay, and it's
Okay.
got a checkbox next to it?
Yeah, well, it says Yeti. And so does the speaker. They both say Yeti.
All right, well, we're good then. All right. Keep
But
going.
you can hear me, right?
We can hear you.
Okay. But okay, go to Daniel 11:36. Sorry for the delay.
I just did.
He did, yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
the idea that he would exalt himself over every other thing that is every other, God often the Bible refers to that. It talks about, lifting up over every little god, almost it is as if it is acknowledging in passing that the world does, go astray, worshiping other small gods, and yet this is something that's going to happen that's even going to supersede all of that.
He's not going to believe in traditional religion. There's one exception, the way it's worded, the God of war. Could you read verse 37, please, Ken?
He will have no respect for the gods of his fathers or the god of the god desired by women. He will have no respect for any god. He will put himself on high over all, but in place of this, he will give honor to the God of armed forces and to a God of whom his fathers had no knowledge.
And the God of armed forces, the God of war. That reminds me of Hitler. Hitler would have these parades, and in the parades, he would emphasize the German, new tanks, soldiers marching, and then they'd have a flyover, just like 1935, 36, flyover new fighter jets and bombers. Like he was showing off his military might. If that's a model of the man of sin, that's the kind of person he'll be.
Yep.
Yeah, but also, I mean, if you think about Hitler, the things that he did, the people supported. Even, the atrocities, because that's one of the questions that people ask, how could you let him do that? How could you let this happen in your country? And it's because he had them fooled. They supported him.
Yep.
So, you're talking about somebody who has the ability to win the people over and, not necessarily appear evil at first. And so again, he'll be strong and into the military, but he'll also be able to win people over, I guess you'd say, their hearts and their minds.
Yeah, everybody's looking for some guy in a red suit with horns, and they're not going to get that.
Yeah.
They're going to get something similar to what the world's vision of Christ is with the pictures out there that's been drawn of him for hundreds of years. It'll probably, it wouldn't surprise me a bit if it didn't look a lot like that image that you see pictured everywhere. Long hair, forlorn, weak.
And I like the fact he's not anchored to the traditions of any church, including traditions of the Catholic Church.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That may prove very interesting in the future.
Yeah, to supersede, and you see that somewhat in what happened in Nazi Germany and in some of the other nations that got carried away at that same point in time, is, you know, elevating this person, elevating this system, these ideas, this nationhood above everything else, above all other considerations, be they moral or otherwise. And, you know, that question, you know, how do you get to this point? How do you get to everybody like really putting their back and putting their strength and their productivity behind this? You know, Germany was ripe for it at that point in time. You know, they were humiliated, they were broken, they feel like they had lost their glory and their previous role, and, you know, what was due to their prowess and to their civilization at that point in time. And he really came along and he capitalized on that. And you know, the world is addicted to progress right now, and so I feel like we're vulnerable in the sense that if there's any lessening of that, or you know, God forbid, if any of the luxury or the comfort that we're used to should be taken away, people are going to be clamoring for that to return. You know, that is the way that they live. That's what they're used to. That's what they like. And they're going to want it back. You want your comfort back. You want your ego back. You know, whatever it may be that sets them into this stage. Well, they will lend their power to this evil dude, this force that's going to come on the scene. It's not going to be good. It's not going to be good. But you can see how they could get there.
Oh yeah, if they lose their internet and their social media, it's gonna get ugly.
It's a big deal. People are literally addicted. Like,
They call it doom scrolling. Like, you just sit there.
The world is going to fall apart without it. It's going to go nuts, and maybe it needs to, but it's not going to be pretty just the same.
Right.
Yeah.
Kind of scary. What if their propaganda ministry controls all the internet they can see?
I mean,
what if they does that already?
Yeah, I mean, we've already had a little bit of that with the media and stuff pushing their view on things, and that became the truth, whether people, you know, said it was true or not. If you disagreed with them, you were kind of pushed off in the corner and persecuted against, and everybody else kind of ate it up like, well, it's the press, it must be true, and kind of believed it. So when you've got control of that, you can make people pretty much believe anything you want to. And again, I think when you're talking about religion, sadly has always kind of ebb and flowed with whoever was in power or whoever pushed it, because again, Hitler would have said he was doing God's work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they thought that, you know. Yeah,
you can definitely see that pattern. By the way, let's read verse 43, please, Ken.
I'm at 1139.
1139. That's what I meant to say. 39.
To those whom he takes note of, he will give high honor, and he will make them rulers over the mass of the people, and will make division of the land for a price.
In other words, this man will corrupt leaders with money. He's definitely not above corruption. And don't we have a lot of politicians come to government as, let's say, upper middle class, and after a decade, they're multi-millionaires?
Well, most of them nowadays get into politics because they are corrupt and they want the free ride.
The question is, corruption is not something they're all avoiding with a fine-tooth comb.
No, they are corrupt, and because well, here's my view: is most of these guys are leftists anyway, and they have no talent. They're talentless hacks, and they're just out for the free money.
So this world will have plenty of corruptible people.
Oh, yeah.
This guy's not above corrupting them.
It's interesting to me that, you know, in this scripture, it talks about him dividing the land for a price. So it's essentially, you know, how you split up territory or whatever, and you know, in return for consideration, and no doubt it's a benefit to those who take control over it. You know, just for the same reason you would buy a piece of property or whatever it is. You bribe your way in, because then you have power and authority, and you take the revenue of that area. It's interesting though, in the context of, you know, the 10 kings that we talk about at the end, and it talks about them coming to power for a very short time or for 1 hour with the beast. Like, it's a very short-lived thing, and as the world tries to solve its squabbles over territory and stuff like that, rejiggering borders or redividing things is a potential solution. So you can see how that can come about. You can see it that came out a lot after World War I, where it's big colonial powers and spheres of influence are getting divvied up again, and that kind of sets the stage for a lot of things that are still going on today. But you see how that could be looked upon as a solution to a lot of these territorial conflicts and stuff, and they're rife. I mean, they are all over the globe, even minor ones that we don't hear that much about. I mean, people are fighting over and claiming sovereignty over lots of different parts of land.
Corruption is going to be going to add its ugly footprint to the mess.
Oh, yeah.
Would you read verse 43, please, Ken?
But he will have power over the stores of gold and silver and over all the valued things of the south, but he will be troubled by news from the east and from the north. And he will go out in great wrath to send destruction on and put an end to great numbers, but he will come to his end with no helper.
And ultimately, he will take over the king of the south and all of his precious things like oil and natural gas, the king of the north will control. But we think at the very end, some power from the Far East, like China and her allies, will bring a big army, and that will set the stage for Armageddon.
Yeah.
So he won't live long, but he'll have a few years to flex his muscle.
He'll be like a super Hitler.
Yes, for just a few years. So now let's look at what the New Testament says about the man. New Testament. And we'll start off with the Apostle Paul. The Apostle Paul, in his First Thessalonian letter, he talked about, Christ coming in the last trump, and people got overly excited thinking the end was going to come at any minute. So Paul has to pull them back a little bit from getting too worked up. And we're going to talk about that in a minute, too. But would you like to read 2 Thessalonians 2, please, Ken?
Yep. That ye not be soon shaken in mind or troubled, neither by spirit, nor by word, nor by letter from us, as that day of Christ is at hand, that no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition.
And I look at that expression, not soon shaken. And when you think about it, the Bible says stay ready, but look at it like a long distance marathon rather than a sprint. You keep moving, but you can't burn yourself out too fast.
Yeah, it's easy to get to get excited about the end. In a way, it's a release. It would be a relief because there's a lot of things that you want to see ended, problems that you would like to rather have behind you that are not going to come completely to an end until that day comes. And so it's tempting, like in a mix of that and genuine, like looking for and hoping for it, and you see the possibility of it, and you think right now. I remember when I was first studying and listening and reading the Bible and all that. It was like 2008 or so, and everybody's tripping about Iran, and they're going to drop an EMP over our cities and all this stuff. And yeah, it's very scary. It's very possible. And it was very scary. It's very possible then. At this moment in time, though, I would think in my mind, it's less likely today than it was right then, because things have changed. And so what, 16 years ago or whatever, that's not very long in the grand scheme, but it felt really imminent at that point in time, into where I was in my thinking and all of that. And you just don't have the perspective. If you're looking at it through a pinhole, you're kind of missing it. You see how it could go right now, but it's not necessarily gonna.
I think that's the danger that we have as human beings, is that we know what's coming in the end, and we know how wonderful it's going to be, and we're all desiring it. And again, we have these things happen, and we begin talking about, God's kingdom come, just because all this stuff's happening. that sometimes I almost think that we push things to be worse than they are to try and hurry that along.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what it's talking about, is that not to be shaken. I mean, this sounds, and I make these statements, but okay, so what if Iran does drop a bomb?
Mm.
There's not anything we can do about it. I mean, it's God's protection. It's going to protect us. So why worry about it? Why spend this time? And I'm not saying don't pay attention to it or anything. I'm just saying, but there's not anything we can do about it. So we shouldn't be shaken or have our faith tested or anything because of what's going on. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen. We have to do what it is we are supposed to do as God's people. And we always need to stay focused on that, no matter what's going on in the world. And to me, when I read that, that's what I think that's being talked about.
That's exactly the point of that, I believe.
There was a sermon of my There was a sermon of my grandfather's I remember a long time ago, and I don't know if it's one that's been used as a letter offer recently or anything like that. I think it was called "Always Be Ready to Live," and it was about being ready for the end. And you look and you think it's close. You see what's happening, and you feel like, man, stuff could really spin out of control here. And so you're ready for the end. But it talked about also being ready to live, like being ready to persevere and to be patient no matter what, because either it's going to end or it's not. So if all of your focus is on it's over right now, it's done in a few years, that's the whole end. Well, what about 10 years? What about if it's 20 years? You still have a lot of life, maybe even the rest of your life. Certainly a significant portion of mine or my children's, probably a lot of people, their grandkids, or whoever it may be you're talking about. Not a very big portion of time in the grand scheme, but a pretty big portion of time in your personal life, and you're living it day by day is not it's not tomorrow. A lot of people say Christ could return to tomorrow, and this is not a group that's you're going to hear that from, because it's not what the Bible says. We and especially in this topic, I mean, we're going to talk about things that are going to rise and fall and that are going to persist for literally years, that are all yet future, that still have to transpire, and that gives you a little bit of perspective. Even if it starts right now, there's still stuff.
Yeah, I think kind of don't live for doom. Live your life. Yeah. Don't become the person that is always worried about, how am I going to, because I've gone in ebbs and flows in these things. And things have changed things have happened in the last few, months or so of my life. And I don't worry about that sort of stuff anymore. Life's too short. A guy I've worked with, died at 68 years old from throat cancer, and he never retired because he was worried about his insurance, and I ain't doing that. He was worried about this, worried about that. I'm not doing it. I'm not living like that. I'm not.
Yep.
I'm going to enjoy life, live for God, and doing what he wants us to do, and I'm not going to crawl in a hole and pull the hole in after me.
The devil would like you to do that as well. God gave you life to live and to be productive and to be joyful and to be a light and all that. It's not for you to just go be a monk or a hermit or something and hide away. That's not what it is at all.
No, and there's nowhere in the Bible where it says to do that. But it does say to watch, be vigilant, understand what's going on in the world around you, and, be a shining light for others.
Here's a possibility. In Trump's first term, the neocons wanted him to bomb Iran when they shot down an expensive drone. And last minute, he said, no, I don't want war. I want to pressure them through peace. Right now, people wanted him to bomb, or Israel, bomb Iran's nuclear sites. They might end up doing that. But Trump says, let's try diplomacy first. By the way, I'm not saying diplomacy will work. I don't know. But is it not impossible, in spite of what people think, diplomacy might work for a while, like 3 or 4, 5, 6 years? It's possible, isn't it?
I'm not sure how many other options Iran has right now. I'm pretty sure he started wanting to talk to him at the same day that they bombed the stuffing out of the Houthis down there. So I think that sent a pretty clear signal at the same time. While he is approaching them with talking and all that, certainly we and Israel and other of our allies, including the United Kingdom, who has participated in a lot of that, has been pretty tough on the ground recently. You know, they haven't been fooling around over there.
And they're already tightening sanctions on Iran, like he did the first time, that were really crippling. They now know how Iran has cheated on the sanctions, and they're cracking down on the cheating. I'm not saying I know what will happen, but it's not impossible that we could have relative peace in the Middle East. I know that sounds like, oh, that's outrageous. That'll never happen. I never thought the Abraham Accords would happen.
Right.
Yeah.
So the point is, we don't know. We just have to watch it. Would you go to verse 4, please, Ken?
Who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called God, or that is worshipped, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God.
One, is there a great falling away of Bible knowledge, which I think will help in the deceiving the world. People don't know the Bible, but think of how audacious it is for a man to go to the holy mountain in Jerusalem, and I assume it'll be a beautiful temple, and put his throne right there in the holy place. And I assume he's going to, Antiochus put a statue, we assume, of Zeus and pig's blood. This guy's probably going to put a statue of himself.
Yeah, and he's
going to think with AI, maybe the statue will talk.
He's going. Go ahead, Michael.
Oh, I was going to say, I always think of him being in there personally. Like he's there being worshipped.
Yeah. We lost your audio, Dr. Ricks.
I think that's
audio.
No.
There we go. Now we got you.
Okay.
I think that's
good.
Clear that's why, this guy is just, you think about somebody who has this kind of ego.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's not going to want people, he's not going to want to stand to the side and watch them worship a statue or anything. There'll probably be a statue of him, but he was going to want to be there, probably have a nice big throne that he sits on that has the people come in and, bow before him and worship him. Because that's what his ego is going to demand.
Well, Satan says he wants to be as the Most High.
Yes, in the vein of emperor worship and things like that have come before. That's not a, that's a common theme in human history. Somebody elevating themselves to a place of divinity and having others worship them, and you almost feel like it's a resurrection of that. And if he. I don't know. The parts in the Old Testament about him not honoring any god or anything like that, but war, but then you have this aspect of him that he's also, if there's total disrespect, obviously there's total disrespect for true religion, but then there's also to worship something. He's injecting himself into the temple of God, which is a holy place. It's a holy place to Christians. It's a holy place to Jews. It's even a holy place to Muslims. So he's really stepping into a lot. He's stepping into a big place, a big pair of shoes right there, if you will. And it's almost like Catholicism had a way of bringing in all of these traditions and these pre-existing things. Like, so maybe this guy doesn't honor anything. He doesn't have any real faith or any piety towards anything. It's all about me and promoting myself. But he's certainly not above glomming onto that and like taking over those divine roles in all of these religions, as if he is the fulfillment of everything that is to come. You can see how that gives a pretty big scope to falsehood, I guess. If he's pulling off miracles, if he's too strong and scary, anybody to make war with him and all this stuff, what can he not get away with?
By any means necessary.
If you think about it, what was it that Satan did? Satan went against God and tried to dethrone him.
Yeah, he said, "I'll be like the Most High." Yeah,
yeah, and I think that is the same kind of attitude. I think Satan will be influencing this person to where he'll have that kind of attitude. So the reason there'll be no other God is because it'll be him as God. That same thing Satan tried to do.
Yeah.
Ken, would you read 2 Thessalonians 5 and 6?
Remember ye not that when I was yet with you, I told you these things, and now ye know what withholdeth that he might be revealed in his time.
What I assume is that when Paul preached in Thessalonians, he probably told them in person how God put some kind of block holding Satan from fulfilling his total deception. And see, they remember what he said, but we, reading somebody else's mail, we don't know exactly what he said. But my guess is Satan is maintaining. Satan may not know when God's going to let him totally unleash his full deception, but it's coming, and I imagine Satan is getting ready.
He's certainly preparing the world. You see, as we slide, and we're, it's like with the advent of technology, Christianity spread, the gospel was spread, could spread, information is widely available, and that's been an amazing thing, and yet now we're on the other side of it. Now it's almost like it has no value again, and people are just back to you're just back to finding whatever you want or whatever makes you feel good. You're just stuck in this loop again. And we think about we think about the slide of society from traditional values or whatever, but when you think back to Greece or to Rome or some of those intervening ages, that wasn't traditional values as we view them. This modern age of buttoned up Protestant morality, or even Catholic morality, or this pretty puritanical type bent that we have coming out of, that's not all of history. And we're certainly sliding back to something that predates that. I think it's gotten real out in the open.
Yeah, that's so true. Let's go to 2 Thessalonians 2:8, please, Ken.
And then shall that wicked be revealed, even him whose coming is after the working of Satan with all power and signs and lying wonders, and with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish, because they receive not the love of the truth, that they might be saved. And for this cause God shall send them strong delusion, that they should believe a lie.
My thought is maybe we should be watching for an uptick, sudden uptick in vast propaganda deception, as an indication that God has removed the restraints off the devil. So will we see at some point a sudden uptick in one-sided propaganda?
I mean, that's always been the tool of Satan it's not necessarily just brute force, it's just deception, to deceive people to believe a lie. And again, like I said earlier, we've already had a good sample of that, with people believing what was being told to them from the news and stuff. I mean, for years, everything they were saying, people were like arguing over. You had the people who said, no, that's not true. And you had other people just swearing by it. Oh, yes, it is the truth. And it got ugly sometimes. So again, I see it going down that same kind of road, that we're going to see more and more deception, as in that what the truth is will look like lies, which the Bible tells us that's going to happen. So I think that's what's going to start happening, is we're going to start seeing Christianity teaching things that we know are not, and I'm not talking about our differences in beliefs. I'm just talking about incomplete differences of what they say the truth is versus what it's not. And it's going to continue to get worse and make it to where, I think Michael Kai said a minute ago, I look at it like, if people look at it as religion like a buffet. I'm going to go through the buffet line and I'm going to pick the parts of a religion that I like, and then that's what I'm going to do. And it has nothing to do with truth. It has to do with what I want as a human.
So are you saying, Kelly, people will not love the truth, not the real truth?
No. Matter of fact, they will hate it because it will go against what they believe truth is.
They got a problem then. They got to get a hold of this AI stuff, because if you ask the right questions, you're going to get the answers that we know are right. I've been playing with it, and so has Tom been playing with it, and other people have. If you play with it, you're going to get that nobody's gone to heaven. You're going to get there is no ever burning hell that people are I've been playing with it, and it kicks it out. And they got to have to shut that down.
Well, again, that's the thing about AI from what I've played with it too. And what I've discovered is it just gives you the facts that it knows. Now, you got to be careful about the facts because sometimes there's false truth out on
Sometimes
the
you
internet.
have to narrow it down.
But when you start,
yes, facts are information to it. It doesn't, you wonder about its ability to discern when you get into some of those issues, or is it just regurgitating a certain viewpoint and you get to the point where you're prompting it for that viewpoint or that version of the information?
Like I was asked, based on these verses, what is the conclusion? And they give you the right answer.
Yeah.
It pulls the emotion out of it. There is no emotion. There is no bias. It's just here's the facts as I have found them, and I'm presenting it to you to form whatever opinion you want.
And maybe that's not. Then I'm not saying this is specifically why, but the government wanted control of it all, and they wanted to regulate it, and they wanted to have influence over what the AIs were spitting out. Or that kind of problem, because if you start asking it stuff about politics, it'll spit out the truth, and most of the people in politics just can't handle the truth.
Ever had the experience, happened to us a few times, you were talking to your spouse, somebody on the couch, and your cell phone was on, and the phone heard you say something that it interpreted as a question, and with the volume up pretty good, it would tell you an answer that you thought, what? This phone is just contradicting my thinking?
Yeah.
Wow. Could that become the common rule instead of a weird accident? People thinking something and the phone says, no. The National Health Administration or whatever has decided that this is the only truth.
Yeah, I've got the Alexa devices. And I'll be watching TV, and all of a sudden Alexa will go off like I've asked it a question, and it wasn't me. It was something it heard on the TV. And it interprets it as, oh, you're wanting to know about, and it will start giving me information based on, I'm like, no, shut up.
Yeah, your devices start telling you what truth is out of nowhere.
So again, you get into AI and stuff, and you could have these devices if they're in your home. Somebody could come in and say, hey, have you heard about the Sabbath? Well, the Sabbath is, and start giving you this whole spiel that it's giving you. And depending on, if somebody's got control of it or if they're pushing the information into it that they want to go out, then you're going to hear some kind of definition about it that may be true, may not be true.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the ability to interject and to comment and to correct in real time, from without any, human intermediary, this thing's just popping off at you like you guys are talking about. You're not even talking to it. You're just minding your own business, and it's giving you information and advice. It's recording you. Whether or not you can go and ask them to delete it, remains to be seen. You'll have to work that out in court. But they're capturing it all, and the ability to interject from there, it exists. It's a weird place to be. It's real weird.
I asked Alexa,
I don't like it.
if she was spying on me and recording everything, and she said, not as far as you know. I laughed. Alexa laughed. You know what? That's not true, because I wouldn't put I don't have any of that stuff in my house. I do have a silly, whatever the iPhone is stuff, but I don't have any devices in my house that I can talk to.
Yeah,
maybe the Roku remote has something on it, but that's it.
My phone wants me to talk to it all the time, and I keep telling it no, but I don't think it's listening. I do think it's listening.
Oh, it is.
What do I think? I'm not sure.
It has to
I
listen.
just think whatever
it's not listening,
I don't.
It can't respond if it's not listening.
I can see the day coming to where it's just like, excuse me, you don't know what you're talking about, so let me educate you.
Yeah.
And begin trying to, tell you that and stuff. But I think we're a ways away from that yet. But mine just aggravates me. I'll send a text message to Kathy when I'm coming home from lunch. I'll say, I'm headed home for lunch. And he comes up and goes, do you know you can schedule to send text messages? I go, yes, but I don't want to do that. Shut up. So then I start arguing with my phone as we're going down the road.
Mine keeps asking me, are you going home? Are you going home? It's only, 3 hours to home.
There's science fiction books that have been written where the TV is watching and recording you, and big government is programming you. I realize that's all fiction, But if people don't learn to love the truth, they may be in a world full of lies and they won't be okay with it.
I mean, you have to understand about science fiction is that a lot of science fiction has become science fact. I mean, we all remember the Star Trek, the communicator, the little flip, and what did we have? Flip cell phones.
That's old
So
tech.
I know, but that's what I'm saying, is that some of that stuff becomes real and they keep moving on with it. I actually read, because I did a sermon about it, that actually they have transporter technology where they tear apart atoms and stuff and transport them and
Nah, I'm not buying
yes,
it.
yes. No, they do. I mean, we're talking down to, not
The
human
molecular level, I don't know. Can you when you
Yeah.
can fax me a Yingling, we'll talk.
Well, again, I mean, but it has to start somewhere,
Oh, by the way, Kelly, there's a AI called DebunkBot at debunkbot.com. It says interact with an artificial intelligence model that seeks to persuade you against unsupported beliefs like conspiracy theories. It's already there, man.
Yeah, too many conspiracy
only if you go
theories.
there.
Well, yeah, I know.
Now coming.
Well, let's go to Revelation 11:6, please, Ken.
All right. These have power to shut heaven as often as they desire. When they finish their testimony, the beast that ascends out of the bottomless pit will make war against them, overcome them, and kill them. And their dead bodies will lie in the street of the great city, which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt, where also our Lord was crucified.
When you read the text of it, he will not, the false prophet, the beast, the false prophet, will not allow the two witnesses' bodies to be buried. They'll just lay them out in the square, put, I assume, cameras on them so people can celebrate for days these men that God would not allow them to touch until now. Finally, God allows them to kill them. They're going to celebrate this victory. That shows a petty person who.
Okay. We just
The
lost
AI has
Dr.
struck.
Ricks. As
Did
we
we
do every
freeze up?
week about this time, I think something locks up on his end.
Oh, he's back. He's back, Dr.
Yeah.
Ricks. You're back. You're
All
here.
right.
I'm back. What
You were-
about?
you were-
I said
you-
he
you got
gloats
cut
over
off
his
when you were
enemies.
talking
They want
about
you
the.
to hear that, right?
You got cut off right when you were talking about the pettiness of the beast to allow the
Yep.
two witnesses' bodies to lie in the streets for a few days and for the
Mhm.
world to glory over them and all that. Oh,
What are you doing? We had you. Now you're shut down, Dr. Ricks. Whatever you just did, there we go.
Okay.
all right.
I was trying to improve the volume, but I guess it didn't work, right?
You're fine.
It
right
might have
now.
backfired a little bit. You sound good now, though.
Okay. Well, what about the fact that he's a person who gloats over his enemy's fall?
Yeah, to let them just lay there. I mean, it seems pretty brutal, and especially for everybody to rejoice and send gifts and have all this hoopla and celebrate over their dead bodies. It's that's pretty rough. But you assume it's the same period of time, right? The beast takes power, and the two witnesses are there testifying during this reign. This period of time that comes up again. This 3.5 years, 42 months, the whole thing, 1,000 whatever days. You assume it's the same period of time, so it's like they've been a thorn in his side during his entire, during the entire time this has been going on, and yet he hasn't been able to. They've been untouchable, as you said, essentially, until God allows this to happen.
And the people of the world, I mean, to celebrate the way it talks about them celebrating. I never did quite understand that until Saddam Hussein was killed. And then there was a lot of places in the world, like in New York City, people were out in the streets and they were just having a big party over his death. And that's when I realized this is very doable. And now when you put into social media and everybody wearing, with their phones, I mean, you see something going on, you see everybody up with their phones, recording what's going on, and they put it out on the internet. People being stabbed, people being run over. these gruesome things. So this is not going to be anything that will be any different than those things. So we've already got the foundation for them. And so now you've got these two men who are preaching God's word and basically telling people you're wrong. You shouldn't be doing what you're doing. What your behavior is wrong. They're not going to like that. I mean, people don't like being told what they're doing is wrong. And you're going in and you're going like, well, here, the thing you picked for your religion, your buffet, we're going to get rid of that because it's all bad. They're going to get angry. So when this happens, you kind of understand, or at least I grasp it better, the kind of society with the social media and everything, the people partying, giving gifts. I mean, again, it just boggles my mind that two people died who were preaching God's word and the world is partying. And my question has always been, how much does Christianity, mainstream Christianity, get caught up in that celebration? Because they're not going to like what the two witnesses are preaching.
Yeah.
Because a lot of it's going to go against what they believe.
Well, you got to ask yourself, what is mainstream Christianity at this point in time? I mean, we're talking about a few years of the world essentially, giving itself away to worship this guy, and we've fallen a long way by then. And have we gotten to the fallen away scripture yet? We have, haven't we? Yeah, we already did that. The idea that some of these things that say Christians would never do this, or even a nominally Christian people would never go along with that. That might be a thing of the past by then. Like that, how many generations is it going to take for it to decay? How many years? I mean, what kind of state is it in right now? What are the religious leaders pushing? Look at I know we're going to talk about the Pope here at the end, but look at the direction other religions have been going for years now. There's been a lot of compromising. There's not a lot of meat left on the bone, really.
Yep.
By the way, so again,
can we?
So the foundation is in place.
It's undermined. Yeah.
You read Revelation 13:3.
All right. And I saw one of his heads as if it had been mortally wounded, and his deadly wound was healed, and all of the world marveled and followed the beast. So they worshipped the dragon who gave authority to the beast, and they worshipped the beast, saying, "Who is like the beast? Who is able to make war with him?"
Here's what probably will happen. Satan will arrange to put the beast into some kind of occultic trance where he will appear to be dead. Now, maybe there's new technology. Who knows how Satan will do it, but God will allow him to do it. Maybe he's in his casket or hospital bed. All of a sudden, he will sit up and come back to life. And the whole world will marvel. The man was in his casket, dead for 2 days, or whatever they say. And all of a sudden, he comes back to life. It's like a resurrection. Now we know he's special. And see, if you know the Bible, you won't be surprised at that. But we think most of the world won't know the Bible that well.
They don't now.
Oh.
They don't.
Yeah.
No.
And the whole, like worshiping the dragon, are the people of the good world going to be worshiping the devil while they're worshiping somebody who's claiming to be God, who's sitting in the temple of God? We've fallen a long way before we can get to a point like that. A lot has decayed to get us there. And some of this language is what gets me in this discussion of the beast sometimes is thinking of the beast as a system that is a whole, a beast power type thing, because this is beyond like one individual, but then there's obviously an individual who epitomizes it, who is also at the helm of it, right? Or like in 13:12, the second beast causes the whole world to worship the first beast, and he can do these miracles in the sight of the first beast and all this stuff. It's a confusing thing, but you can see in the biggest points of this that the whole world is looking after it, where this guy is. He's going to set himself up in Jerusalem and all that, while the details of how it exactly happens or the minutia of it could be subject to debate. I don't think that the story arc there is going to go by without catching your notice somewhere along the way, because it's big. It's like it's earth-shaking stuff. So if you're hung up on a detail here or a detail there, it will certainly be clear when it begins to transpire. Or even like what was told to Daniel, like you're not gonna understand this. It's for the end. Go your way. Don't worry about it. Thank you for your part in the work, but you don't get to know all this in advance. I'm sure he'll get to see it when he's resurrected. It'll be gruesome and tragic then. We may not know exactly how this person is going to come to power or how he's going to arrange things. But when those types of moves start happening, I don't think there's going to be a lot of ambiguity about it. If you're one of the ones who knows what to be looking for at that point in time, you're not going to miss it or something.
Very good point, Michael. Ken, could you read 13, 8, and 9?
8 and 9. There we go. All who dwell on the earth will worship him whose names have not been written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. If anyone has an ear, let him hear.
The whole world, except for us, will be deceived. This guy came back from the dead.
Yeah.
And his buddy, the false prophet, called down fire from heaven. Maybe that could be done with a satellite, but who knows how the devil will do it.
And how much more proof do you need than that? I mean, think about it. That's what are you going to do? How dare would you mess with someone that can do all that? That's what they're going to do. That's what they're going to say.
It makes me think of technological advancement that can't be resisted, like something that is developed or comes about that nobody can do anything about. Otherwise, who's like him, who can make war with him? Like, what kind of power does this person or this system have? Like the nuclear bomb at the end of World War II. Hold on, everybody. Hit the brakes. We don't want to fight anymore. We can't do anything about that. You're the boss. Sure, by all means. Like, you go ahead. You take charge. Right? That's. Yeah.
If you lived in China, their system is basically all encompassing. You can't move, travel, do anything outside their system. Their social score system drives everything you can and cannot do. You mess up, your score gets dropped. You can't do this, you can't do that. You're good, a good little commie, then your score goes up and you can do more things, and that'll be a global situation probably. Everybody wants to copy that. The globalists want to copy that. All the commie countries want to copy what China's doing.
I saw an interesting video today. It was a study on human nature, I guess. There was 3 people sitting in a big room with a bunch of chairs, and they brought this one person in, and they all had papers like they were filling out a job application or something, and they would ring a bell, and the 3 people who were already in there would stand up, and they would ring a bell again, and they would sit down, and they rang the bell again, and he stood up. Well, this other person who came in was standing there because they were all standing, and they all sat down when the bell rung. So he looked at them, he sat down. So they went through this, and everybody that came in that had nothing to do with these first 3 would do what they did. When they rang the bell, they would sit down, and when they rang the bell, they would stand up with no instruction whatsoever. And it was like just amazing watching. There was one lady who came in, and she came in, they were standing. She came in, she sat down. They rang the bell, they all sat down, and then they all stood up. She just sat there and just kept on going. She didn't stand up one time. They came in, got her, and took her out.
That's what they're going to do to us.
And then they took the 3 originals who started all this, took them out of the room. So it was all people who had no idea what was going on, except that when the bell rang, they stood up or they sat down. And I was like, that is so sad, but so true that people can be trained like that very quickly. So you start thinking about this other stuff, and
I'm just saying they can, and that's how he's going to do it. And there's going to be a small handful that won't stand up or sit down when the bell rings, and we're going to be the problem.
And that's exactly what I was thinking about. You had that one lady, and what did they do? They took her out of the room away from the others.
Right.
And so, again, that's what I think, they'll try to pull us out of the way to keep us from influencing anybody. But with technology, how many times have you ever seen something and you knew it wasn't true because you could see it and see that it was fake, but you had other people who were just like arguing with you going, no, that's real. Look at that. That's real. And you're like, that's fake. again, I can see that the whole thing with does the beast really die, or is it all digitally made and made to look like? And so a lot of people buy into it because that's what they want to see. They want to see this person they've been worshiping, rise back up.
So his death could be CGI.
Yes.
AI generated, or some special drug that we haven't heard of yet. It could be all false, right?
Yeah.
How would we know?
Well, I mean, that's it. We won't, accept that we're watching and we know what to watch or what to look for. So again, that's why if you get caught up in this stuff and it shakes you and you start, freaking out about it and stuff, then you can get caught up in it too. Whereas, okay, there we go. That's looking pretty much like what the Bible says.
I'd say
And,
this, and we all said this earlier. Michael said it, and you said it, and Dr. Rick said it. That the person that doesn't do that doesn't get bent out of shape when things are falling apart, the ones that kind of know what's going on. I mean, we're going to have to be somewhat not flexible in our understanding, but what happens as we go. But we think this might be the thing. Well, maybe it's this thing, but it'll fit. It'll fit what the Bible says. But the people that aren't getting bent out of shape and tore up are going to be the people that a lot of the people that end up converting look to for their answers. If we're not, we're like, yeah, this is happening, that's happening. Yeah, the temple's being built. Yeah, we know it's all got to happen. No big deal. We're just waiting it out, If you got any questions, come by. I'll answer them for you best I can. I mean, them are the people are going to ask. Them are the ones the people are going to cling to. The ones that are actually being called near the end. They're going to cling to those people, not the ones panicking and digging a hole.
Right.
Well, when you are panicking, though, often you want some answer that goes along with your panic that, justifies it or, makes you feel
that's true.
better about it. That's a temptation, too, to pick a teacher or pick an idea based on, it already agreeing with your emotion or whatever it may be, and kind of helps you get carried away. And that's bad that the world of clicks kind of plays into that rather to obscure, maybe more reasoned or calm discussion of what's going on. But
by the way, we don't have to read Revelation 17:8, but it basically says the world will marvel at the beast after he comes back to life and all these things happen. But there's one more thing about the beast I think is worth discussing. Could you read Revelation 17:16, please?
17:16. There we go. And the 10 horns which you saw on the beast, these will hate the harlot, make the harlot, make her desolate and naked, eat her flesh and burn her with fire. For God has put it in their hearts to fulfill his purpose, to be of one mind, and to give their kingdom to the beast until the words of God are fulfilled.
Here's what I think this means. The beast is kind of like a political system. The leader, of course, is the beast, but there's a whole political system. And then there's a religious system. I assume it'll be run by a super pope, and maybe they'll have other titles as well. Maybe Universal Church, Catholic, and Eastern Orthodox together. And the political power will be jealous of sharing power with the religious power, and they're going to attack the religious side. Burn churches, kill priests, shut down monkeries and nunneries and abbreys and all these other things. And it's like he's so completely mad with power, he can't share power even with an ally that helped him get there.
It makes me think of another World War II reference. I guess Hitler in the early Nazi Party, he had a lot of unsavory elements of society that were in there with him, and like notorious homosexuals and things like that, which were very, very taboo still at that point in time, and he used them very much. They were an integral part of his early movement. But when it started getting bigger and it started getting more mainstream and he had more legitimate backers, suddenly that aspect of it was subdued. A lot of those people were put down or were killed and gotten rid of if they knew too much or if they had been involved in too much. And so you could see how this evil leader could play off the church, could play off false religion to help him take his place, and then yet turn on it, and the idea that what happens to it is God's justice, or God's judgment on the whore coming about. That's pretty heavy stuff. But that's what they got coming. It was certainly going to not stop this awful guy from taking advantage of it and using it, for his own ends.
It's like the church that martyred many Christians. God will let the political power or police state destroy that church.
Yeah.
And like you said, Hitler did with the brown shirts and the SA and stormtroopers, the Night of the Long Knives. Most of their leaders were murdered in the middle of that night, like Ernst Röhm, who thought, well, they fought in the streets of Germany to help Hitler get where he was. And he thought, well, once I get there, you're going to make me head of the military in Germany, right? Hitler made a deal with the German military and actually murdered the people that helped him get to the top. That is ruthless.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's a big
point.
That's a big point you have in here about the beast, is somebody that, the betrayal, about turning on your own allies and all that. Because even in the unrighteousness of the world, there is sort of a sympathy, like you're in it together. There's a camaraderie to it all. But real evil, doesn't give a hoot for that. It's only godly principles that makes you say no. If I got to get it through underhanded dealing or skullduggery or making dark deals with somebody, then I don't want it. If I can't get it the right way, I don't want it. You come to that point and say it. But most of the world is not. Most of the world's not there. They just want it, no matter how they get it.
The man will be totally ruthless. One thing to remember: 3.5 years is, historically speaking, a very short time period. It's like being in junior high school. It goes almost like that. So God won't let him have power but for a short while. And then God's going to crush him like grapes.
It's
to 19.
It's weird how we're pointing at Hitler a lot tonight. I mean, we've had examples in distant past like Nebuchadnezzar, Antiochus Epiphanes, but we've got one in our, maybe not in our recent memory of Hitler who fits a lot of this, a lot of the description. I mean, including the died alone in a pit, basically, kind of stuff. I mean, he turned on his people like the beast is going to turn on. He's going to take out one of the horns. I mean, all this stuff is there for us to see up close and have a fair knowledge of, to whenever the true beast comes around again, almost as an example or a warning to what's next, unless it's just some normal flow of society. But it seems like we've been given this example in the not too distant past. Someone's going to try it again.
The demons who ran certain things, maybe Hitler and all his boys are dead, but the demons who ran those things and ran things for evil, like Stalin, those demons are still alive.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to do the same kind of thing if and when God lets them.
The blueprint
Hopefully
hasn't changed.
We'll all be in places of safety, and we'll soon be in God's kingdom when it happens. Now, let's talk about the Pope, if that's all right with you all, for a few minutes. The new Pope. Here's what I was told. This Pope was born in Chicago. His first parish was in St. Louis, Missouri, right, the state where I'm in right now. His dad was a St. Louis Cardinal fan. His mom was a Cubs fan or a White Sox fan, depending on who you ask. So people around here feel, oh, well, he's one of us. However, it would appear that St. Francis is solidifying the more liberal move of the Catholic Church away from their Catholic traditional morality.
Well, we're going to talk about this guy's, I guess, his doctrine or how he's come out on things over his career. I guess he's not old particularly for a pope, but he's not young. He's like 69. He's got some years ahead of him. He's vigorous and what have you. I don't know. There's certainly a lot of left-leaning stuff in his internet history. I guess that's what people have been going on. Retweet. What's the Pope been tweeting? Man, it's a weird world we live in. Well, who would have thought? Yeah, it's a new papal bull. It's a lot of big bull every day. You just read it as he spews it. Going off track. But you can read some pretty strong statements from him about like abortion and things like that as well. So is he kind of on both sides, or is it very liberal? They indicate that the name indicates like a more of a continuation of Francis's policies and all that. And he's taken the name of the last Leo the 13th was in the early 1900s, and he's the rights of the workers and the labor union things. And I mean, it's a different world back then, but we're in a bit of a kind of flux state, flux period again right now. Yeah. But it's before everybody knew how bad it was, Ken. The golden age of communism before they had tried it.
Well, they don't think they've tried it enough. They just think they need to do more of it.
Eventually,
they just got to
get the right people. Yeah.
We got to go full commie this time. As if the Soviet Union wasn't full commie.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm interested to hear him speak at length in English. Personally, I haven't looked it up. No doubt it's out there somewhere. But in this new role, I'm curious. So his actions will tell us more. Certainly,
the English aspect of it is interesting. That most of the world speaks English. Most of the world's going to understand this guy when he speaks in English instead of what you call it.
He speaks a bunch of languages, apparently. I mean, he speaks like five or six or something, a whole bunch.
Yeah, but you won't need an interpreter when he speaks like the other guy.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, I mean, he'll speak to most of the world, which is something to think about. I mean, they'll understand him, and he'll be, and I'm sure, for being from Chicago, and he'll be personable, I'm sure. And like someone else pointed out in the chat room, the last pope, he appointed like 75% of the cardinals, so it should have been no surprise that they got another liberal.
Mm-hmm.
And man, that was fast. Was that 24 hours they had a pope?
It's like 3 days, I think. 3 days. I saw a chart. Yeah, I saw a chart of like historically how long it had taken them, and it wasn't out of line with previous ones.
Oh, okay.
And I mean, probably they were thinking about it before they went in there. I don't know. Francis had been, he'd been up and down here in the recent thing, so they probably had somebody in mind. But they certainly pulled it. They pulled it through.
Just remember, the beast is going to be. He will give no regard to any of the religions of his. So by that count, this new leader and his false prophet make up religion as they on the go. Won't be traditional Catholic, traditional Eastern Orthodox. To me, this seems like they're untethering themselves from the past. And let's assume this Pope elects future cardinals. Then the next Pope after him will also be very. I mean, could it go that way?
Yeah, I wonder about the Catholics loosening a lot of their rules and stuff, because if you look at the way that Protestantism has gone, you get the Anglicans, and then of course the Lutherans and the Episcopalians, and you don't go that far out before you see that they've gone far more liberal than the Catholic Church has, certainly in regards to homosexuality and even in their priesthoods, and allowing women into their clergy and so on and so forth. So what's in store for the Catholic Church? I mean, they have a distinct lack of manpower already, and I've heard that in years past of terms of people who are willing to, take priestly orders and life of celibacy and the whole weird thing, and send your kids to, everybody knows that that's a risk to get them involved in that system. It's not funny, but it's not like it's a secret or something like that, and that hurts them. That hurts them in the manpower area, and so it'll be interesting to see where he takes that. And how much their values are compromised along the way, or if that church as a whole is ready for that kind of compromise. Maybe they are, maybe not.
You're probably right. I did hear that they're short of cash. Maybe the Cardinals picked an American Pope because they think he might be good for fundraising.
Maybe.
Could be. It's all about the money.
Yeah.
I mean, it's possible, isn't it? I mean, I'm sure also he had a lot of influence because he was close to the previous Pope, but could money be a factor?
Money's always a factor.
Yeah. I wondered about that in the lead up, because there was some Filipino guy that they said was a contender, and he was also kind of on the liberal side, kind of a protege of Francis and all that. And that is, and in that area of the world, Catholicism is actually growing. And I sort of wondered if they would pivot towards an area where they felt like they could make gains. But no, to the United States, selling Catholicism in the United States seems like a bit of a dead letter, if you know what I mean. Not only have we gone very liberal in the mainstream, but a lot of what they stand for and a lot of the history behind that, it's just not palatable. And yet people do convert to Catholicism. J.D. Vance did it. Why not? I guess everybody's doing it. What in the world? I knew somebody growing up that did, and I thought that's just weird as can be. I'm surprised that you would go and do that. Have you read about it? It's creepy.
Oh man, is it ever?
There's one more possibility that strikes me. If the Catholic Church goes too far left, just too far left, they may have some kind of bad reaction from the public and be forced to make a sudden shift back the other way. That is a possibility too. So we ought to just keep our eyes open and see which way it goes.
You can guarantee that there are some people inside of that organization that whatever way they've been trending are not going to go. Traditionally, Catholicism is not a liberal institution. You're not just going to get them going part and parcel with all this stuff. There are some people that are going to die on that hill if they have to. And, good for them, because the way they've been moving is wrong, for all the other problems that they have. You don't have to go and embrace the whole spectrum of weirdness in addition to that. So good for them.
One final comment. The Catholic Church has over 1 billion members. It would be good for the West if the Catholic Church stood up for morality like abortion and other morality issues. It'd be good for the West. So I'm hoping this Pope will stand up for morality, but I guess we shall see.
Indeed.
Yep, we shall see. We'll see how quick everything transpires after this. Who knows? But it's our job to watch, so that's what we'll do.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. I think you all did a great job.
All right. If that's all we have, then I'll say good night, everyone. I want to thank you all for joining. Good night out there. We hit over 200 views, just saying, and well over 100 chat messages in the group tonight. So everybody was very active. See you here next. Hopefully it's going to be sunny where you're at. It's about time it's sunny where I'm at. We've had rain for nothing but rain for weeks here. So I may get a nice Sabbath with some sun and might enjoy that. So I'd say good night, everyone. And we hope to see you back here again next week.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
We're happy you could make it, and so glad you are here, and hope that we've been able to make God's word more clear. Until next time, may God be with you in everything you try. But for now, till next week, we have to say goodbye.